Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of From the Heart. I'm your host, Chloe Trca. This is a podcast where we talk about literally everything on my heart week to week, all the experiences, the lessons that I learned, the struggles that I have, the highs, the lows, regarding everything, my day-to-day life, my fitness, my wellness journey, my relationships, my mindset, my faith, everything that encompasses my life, and I'm so glad you're here. So this week's episode is going to be on the topic that everything comes with a cost. And this was something that I really learned this week. This was an interesting week for me. It was definitely hard, but beautiful in the same way. Lots of lessons learned about myself. If you can hear the construction outside, I'm so sorry. I don't know what's going on, but it was not happening until I turned on this camera. Anyway, it's been an interesting week. Definitely learned a lot about myself this week, and I just want to bring this up to you guys because I think it could be very good to know. I think it's really good to be self-aware, and sometimes we're just not aware until we're put into an experience. You know, you don't know what you don't know. So it's not like I was trying not to know this. It wasn't like I wanted to not understand this concept. I just hadn't really been put into a position where it forced me to learn it. And I think too, when you learn it the hard way, you remember it. So avoid my mistakes, but I'm going to kind of compare this in a lot of different ways, but the theme of everything comes with a cost is really important. And this can be within your fitness journey, and say you're like, you know what, I really want to get my nutrition in check. That comes with a cost, and not just a financial cost, because yes, organic, high quality foods, they do cost more money, like monetarily, but there's also another cost to it. And those costs may be having to say no to some treats that your friends make, or having to say no to yourself when you're craving something specific. For me, I have to say no to Swig every single time I crave it. I have wanted to go to Swig so many times this week, and I'm like, you know what? Swig doesn't make me feel good. I'm like, the cost of it isn't worth it to me. That's kind of how I view decision making now, because it's like you can have something, but it comes with a cost, and it's not just monetary. And like I said, Swig, one, it costs like $4 or $5 for your drink, but then two, I always notice that I wake up, I feel like there's like a lot of is there a lot of sodium in soda? I don't know. I wake up kind of puffy and inflamed. I don't think it's good for me. It's not good for me. Soda's not really benefiting you in any way other than like the experience and the taste, but nutritionally, it's not benefiting you. And it's funny because up until this point, if you guys are new listeners, a new journey that I'm on is to really focus on feeling my best. And a lot of that has to do with the way I'm eating and my nutrition, because my training allows me to feel pretty well. I'll definitely be more in tune with that and how my body is responding to certain training, but right now it's really just dialing in on my nutrition. And so really what I fixed is I have based all of my meals around whole foods. I really began to say no to a lot of the artificial ingredients that I was consuming, a lot of the inflammatory oils that I was consuming. Once you remove those, you realize how much they're in. And I was like, oh wow. But also too, you guys, I'm a little over a week into this, and I know last week I was telling you I was a few days in, and I feel so good. I have never felt better in my skin. My energy has never been better. Like, it works. It works. When you put in good quality stuff into your body, like I refer to it as gasoline. It's like when you put in premium gas, it's going to run better. If you put in diesel into a car, it's not going to run. It's just not what it's meant for. So viewing your body, maybe like a car, or for me too, I tie it to my faith, and it's like your body's a temple of the Holy Spirit, and I want to honor that. And so I want to feel myself the best way I can. And in return, like, the cost of doing that, there's also a reward to it. So there's a cost to everything, but there's a reward, and you really have to weigh out what rewards you want most and what costs you're willing to give up. And I think it's so easy for us to fall into like really quick satisfaction, and also too just like want certain things but not realize what it's costing us. So like I said, for the food, it's like it costs money, but two, it also costs those opportunities of being like, no, I'm not actually gonna go to Swig. You know, that sounds fun, but maybe I shouldn't do that. And there's also always an alternative, especially this day and age, you guys, primarily with like food and nutrition. There's like such an easy other answer. It may require you not to go to Swig, but you might have to go to like Whole Foods and get a Poppy, or you might have to go to Whole Foods and get a Zevia. Or for me, one of the places I love here in Arizona, it's a fine foods grocery store called AJ's, and they have like a little It's so cute in there. It's so cute. But they have like a little bakery section, but they also sell like drinks. They sell like tea and stuff in there, and they're so good. And they're like $1.50, and they're delicious, and it's tea. So it's like still fun to go get a drink with your friends, or when you're just feeling like getting out of the house to get a fun drink. But it's tea, and there's non-caffeinated ones, which is amazing because a lot of times I want a little fun drink at like 3 to like 7 p.m., that range, and it's really not smart to be getting a ton of caffeine in my body, because that's also something I've been working on, is lowering my caffeine intake. I will admit though, I did have a cold brew before this episode because I'm in my luteal phase and I'm very tired, like sleepy today, and I just wanted to be like alive for this episode. But I just think it's really important to realize there are alternatives, and when you're giving up something, you can still find something good, but we need to be so cognizant and so aware of the things that we're desiring and the things that we're asking for. And if you're faithful, what you're praying for, realize when you want something good, it might come with a cost that you don't realize right away. And one thing in my life that I've really realized is, this is going to refer to my relationship and dating. Even back before I met my boyfriend now, Kyler, I wrote a list, and it was like a prayer list of all these things I wanted in a man, and I would pray to God for this. It was actually influenced by my best friend Taylor back home, because she did it, and now her fiance she's with now, he fits every single thing. And she's like, Chloe, God like will answer your prayers. You need to pray so specifically about exactly what you want. And I was like, say less, because this was in my season of like very single, and I'm like, you know what, if I can have exactly what I want, like God's gonna give you the perfect man. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna be as picky as I can be, and I wrote down all these things, because I've never been one to have a checklist and be like, he has to check all the boxes. But this, I was like, you know, if the Lord wants to prepare me a perfect man, like here we go. Like I trust God's plan. And so I prayed for all these things, and they weren't that none of them were like appearance, none of them were like financial, none of them were very like worldly things. They were very personal things that I wanted in a man. Like one of them was being my best friends with my brother. One of them was being my biggest cheerleader. One of them was being a high achiever and having a lot of goals. And it's funny because all of those are amazing. Those are all positive things to ask for, but there's a cost to it. And I just didn't even think about that. I was always like a high achiever that's like positive, positive, positive. And it is positive, and I'm not complaining about that. But one of the costs that I've realized in my relationship is that because he is a high achiever and he is a businessman and he's working all the time, that means his availability is a lot less. He can hang out a lot less. We can't be together as much as I may want. But it's like, Chloe, you literally asked for a man. You ask God for a man to be a high achiever and be a busy guy with hobbies. And I love that about him. I love that so much about him. But then I failed to realize that that comes with a cost, and he's not going to be available and maybe less flexible to make time to hang out. And it's like, that's only a season of his life though. And right now we're in the dating season. We're not living together. We're not married. I'm not seeing him every single day. And that was hard because, you guys, before I was saved, like, I lived with one of my exes. I was with him every single day. But the thing is, he didn't have a lot of great guy. Like, I have nothing bad to say about my ex, but a few of those things that I was praying for were things that we kind of lacked in our relationship. And I realized God gave me what I wanted, but I didn't realize that the alternative of that, or like the cost of it, was that maybe he wouldn't be around as much as my ex. And I had to kind of adjust to that. And I'll be honest, it was hard on me. And I didn't really understand, because I was looking at it as, why can't you make time for me, rather than me being like, Chloe, this is what you asked for, and this is just a repercussion of that, and you literally are getting what you asked for, so why are you upset? And it blew my mind, you guys. It blew my mind. So it's like, be so aware and be so specific, and really take time to think about what you want, and think about the other end of it. Because if you want a high achiever, they're probably not going to be as available. So if you want someone available, understand too, the flip side, they're probably not going to be as high achieving or as busy or have as many things going on. And I think that's beautiful about a person. I think it's so cool when they have interests and hobbies and they want to be successful, and they're in a grind season. Especially, I feel like a lot of you listeners on here are around my age. We're in like our early 20s. Most of us are like early on in our careers. We're still in like that developmental phase of our career. And so that is we're in the season where we need to be working a little harder and we need to be making sacrifices, because in my opinion, and for what I want, it's like down the road, I want to have a family and I want a husband who can be so present with my family and help me, raise my kids. Like I want them home as well, as much as they can be, and involved, I guess. I can like run the household as a female, but I'm saying I want them to be involved in my kids' lives as well. So if I have to sacrifice maybe time without him, I have to sacrifice time with him now in the dating season for a few years to have a lifetime of more peace and more ease, and I can spend that time with him, and I can have that time spent with my children as well, because maybe he doesn't have to work as hard. He has other things working, like think of things like in the longevity as well. But I think it's just so easy to want. And this goes too for like goals, maybe a fitness goal. And it's like, what? I really want to run a full marathon. And you have to think about more than just the actual training. I think people forget like what they have to give up to do this. And same with bodybuilding, and same with like Ironman training. These are reasons why I personally have never been interested, because I'm not that passionate about the sport. That cost to train for an Ironman or to train for bodybuilding isn't worth the lifestyle that I have and the time that I do have to pour into things that I love so much. And that's my job and my friends and my family and my faith. Like those things would suffer because the cost of it is time. It takes so much of your time to be a bodybuilder. Like you're at the gym twice a day, you're meal prepping, like you're low energy. It's a lot of cost for an amazing reward. I mean, it's such an accomplishment and people should be so proud, but the people who choose that, they understand the cost. And I think too, maybe the people who do start prep and then end up quitting, which I don't think is very common, but I feel like it's because the cost to them isn't worth it. But I just think that's such a fascinating thing to think about, because it just never really dawned on me. Like I always learned about like opportunity costs in college and business school, but really applying it to my own life and into like my day-to-day things now, it's crazy. And even my faith, like there's so many costs and things I have to give up to walk with God, but I mean everything is worth that to me. Like I would give up literally anything. But a lot of my lifestyle has changed, and it's for the better. Like those costs are honestly like rewards, but in the moment it didn't feel like that when I felt called to give them up. For example, like moving in with your boyfriend, before marriage, like that is something I'd done before. I kind of assumed I probably would do it again. Like if Kyler and I weren't Christian, we would probably be living together right now. And that sounds so fun, but also too, like the cost of it to not live like as God wants us to, within his will, is not worth it to me at all. Like all these are very like non-negotiables, but it's a process too. You kind of have to ease into, because your perspective on things change, but same with like sex before marriage. Like that was something, I wasn't pure. I'm saved, thank God. Literally thank God for God. I said that in a podcast I was on this week, but I'm like, thank God for God. But that's something that's a cost to living, like being in a Christian relationship and having God as the foundation. It's the most beautiful thing, and I wouldn't trade it for the world, but there are costs. And me now being involved with like my church, I'm like a city group leader, and there were certain responsibilities and things that I have to be aware of now that I'm like kind of a representation of the church. And I don't drink, so that's easy, but that was one of them. And I was like, okay, well, thank God, like thank God for God, but thank God that's not a challenge for me, and I didn't have to give that up, but like some people do. So it's like you really have to waver the cost compared to what you desire and what you want. And I would again choose God over anything. But again, like a relationship with what you want and the person that you want and the attributes that you want out of a person really reflect on the cost of them too. And even if it's like it's not me trying to say like you have to pick and choose, but it helps you in understanding, and I think it helps you navigate problems along the way that could arise, because you may think it's coming from like a negative place from them. Like say in a relationship, it's like, oh, like why do you want to hang out with me? Why do you want to do this? But it's like, no, you wanted them to do this. It's actually a positive thing, and it's not as personal as you may take it. So I say that just so if you are going through something like that, maybe that's like a new lens, a new perspective that you can kind of view that situation on. But like everything in my life, every decision you make, like there is a cost to it, and we just fall so easily into like instant gratification and instant satisfaction, and honestly anything convenient. But a lot of those things come with a cost, and it's just, I think God is really teaching me that right now because, again, with my diet and my nutrition, yeah, eating my box of Annie bunnies as a little snack along the way tastes amazing. It's super simple. You don't have to prepare it or anything. It's already prepared. You just grab it out of your pantry and you snack on it. It tastes good, like I said. But the cost of it is it doesn't make me feel as good. There's a lot of like fillers, artificial stuff in there that I personally, now that I realize how good I can feel, that is not worth it to me anymore. Like, I will take the time to cook up an egg or scoop some cottage cheese out of a bowl or cut up some fruit and wash it. Yeah, that maybe takes like an extra minute, but typically in those moments, like, that's when you don't want to take the extra minute to do things. But I sit with myself and I'm like, Chloe, this is worth it. Like, how you feel right now is worth it to make that decision. Maybe make the harder decision, but it does pay off in the long run. So yeah, this is literally everything that I'm like learning right now, and it's so crazy because I'm still in the midst of it, but I feel like every single day I'm seeing this displayed in more ways, and it's blowing my mind. Even like living in Arizona versus Iowa, like obviously the cost living here in Arizona is financially much higher. It's much more expensive. The cost of living is so much higher, but compared to Iowa, like the cost for me, I almost view it the opposite. There's so many benefits for me living here, even though it's financially more expensive. But in Iowa, the cost for me might be lower financially, but the cost of it is I'm not in a community that I love. Like the community I love is here in Arizona, like my church and the people that I've met. I don't ever want to leave that right now. At least I don't feel called to. And I just like the version of myself here. I feel like I would lose that going back home. And just the weather in general and the accessibility and the opportunities that I have in Arizona is not worth giving up to save money. So it's like you really have to understand what you value the most to help make those decisions. But like, I don't think any decision's too small to think critically on, truthfully. Like, even in the grocery store, it's like, do I get organic or do I not? And I'm like, well, some people say organic really isn't that much different because it only has to be like a percentage organic to claim it's organic. But in my brain, I'm like, that's still that much better than the other alternative. It might cost me more, but at least it's that much better for me. And so I kind of view it in a more like positive mindset. But this was kind of a shorter episode, I know, and I kind of maybe rambled, but that was just such a powerful lesson, and I really want you guys to understand that and learn from that because it's taught me so much, like I said, in my relationships, in business, and even making business decisions in your career. You might make more money financially, but is this going to take more time away from you, from your family, from your hobbies? Is it going to add more stress to you? Is it really that worth it? So think about it in other realms other than maybe just what you're gaining or what you're wanting. Think about what it may cost you as well. And is it worth it? Is the cost worth it? Gosh, I could just keep giving examples, but I feel like I really want you guys this week to reflect when you're making decisions and when you're asking for things and wanting things and desiring things, to reflect and be like, okay, I want that, but also take the time to understand what it may cost you and what you may have to give up for that. And really, have to weigh the pros and the cons of what that value means to you. But anyway, that's going to be the end of this episode. I know it was really short. I'm sorry. Maybe we'll have a longer episode next week, but that was all on my heart this week, and I just wanted to share. So thank you guys so much for listening. I love you so much, and we will chat next week. Bye, guys.